So welcome, Lauren.
Good morning, Kez.
It
Finally
is
got
good.
me.
I finally got you. I have been trying to get you on. Well, I haven't been trying hard enough. I'm going to admit that. But ever since I started this podcast in 2020, so 4 years ago,
Yeah,
gee, we're
wow.
coming up 4.5 years ago, you were on my list and you've been on my list ever since. And I think it's that case of, when you know someone so well, it's kind of like they come and go in your mind just like you daily and you just don't think.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it, but we've finally done it now, and thank God because you've got a story, and it's I know you think you don't, but you know, I th- where do I want to start on this? You come and do our Girls with Hammers conference every year. We
Yeah.
absolutely adore the way you, and I do want to touch on this because it later in the interview because you are smashing at this.
Oh, so good.
Picking up emotions. Do you know you
Mm.
so freaking good at it, and that's and something I've always said to you about that. You just pick up feelings, and
Yeah.
a really incredible gift. And the other thing I love
Thank
that
you.
oh, my pleasure. It's
No,
just it's
it is, and it is the most amazing feedback to get because I feel like that's one of the biggest things I can give
mm,
is the pausing, like of an emotive moment.
yeah.
So when I get that feedback from people, it always makes my day a happy
Wow.
one.
The pausing of an emotive moment. Jesus, that's a nice little
That's the
statement.
night. I should write that down as a bit of a tagline.
I
I
think
might
you
use that
should.
again.
And if you don't want to listen to this whole interview when it comes live, you just got to listen to the first 3 minutes and you can find it again. So,
Yeah. I think because it's very true, and over the years, like I'll immediately be able to think back over moments people have fed that back to me, and someone might say things like, "I can still remember how that hug felt
yeah.
from a photo," or "I remember what she was whispering in my ear," and that might
Wow.
be between friends, but it's that image that helps
Mm,
prompt that memory in amongst often days that are full of intense memories and
mm,
emotions. So sometimes that image, when someone looks back at the photo, can help like trigger them back into that specific minute,
mm.
and then
It's kind
remember
of,
the actual moments around it a bit deeper.
yeah, kind of like a
Mm.
smell or a song,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
That's amazing because, and that is your unique difference. Like that is that thing that you've got, dude. It's just so, wow,
Thank you.
wow. I also love the way you capture band moments as well. If I was still
Yeah,
rocking and rolling, I'd say, Liz, come and catch me rocking and rolling, but I'm not.
we would have some fun. I think
I
you still get out a bit of your rock and roll when you're doing
know.
your conferences. That's what I always wait for that moment.
I do, and I did see you captured my belly. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Split second. I was like, she's going to do it. Get ready.
Yeah, because I can't control myself. Love it. Liz, why did you start? Like when you were a kid, did you? Just let me tell you my story first. My parents bought me a little. I don't know if you're not as old as me, but when there were like the first little instant cameras, do you know that?
Mm.
And it was black plastic with this steel grayish blue sections on it, and you put a film camera in it, and I
Yeah.
never forget getting that as a kid. And I that was my dream present that I ever
Yeah.
got as a
Wow.
kid. So did your childhood start with a moment like that, or was it something else?
Yeah. I feel like it wasn't one specific moment. Like I didn't have a memory of a camera like as a child. It was more around the actual photos. So like the
Yeah,
the print, the actual final image. Um, I was a very introverted child. I'm still an introvert.
you still
People are
are.
often surprised by that. They see me out with my camera and they're like, "Oh, you're such a extroverted people person." I'm like, "No, that's
No.
that's me kind of really channeling my energy." And then I'm just like, "Let me retreat to nature." um, but a big thing for me was we grew up next to our grandparents in Upper Beaconsfield. Hugely lucky experience to have
Mm,
have that right next door to us,
yeah.
on a bit of land. But we went through the Ash Wednesday bushfires in
Mm,
1983. So I was too young to remember it or have any specific memories of it. But it was a hugely traumatic experience for so many people across the
mm,
state, but particularly in our town of Upper Beaconsfield. There was a lot of lives lost,
yeah.
including 12 firefighters about 100 meters from our house.
Oh
So it
God.
was it was hugely intense, and my grandparents lost their house, and everything, sort of like orchards. And, when mum has recounted some memories to me, she's been like, well, I honestly thought that was it. I was preparing, we're all going to die.
Wow.
She was sort of sheltering with my brother, myself, and my grandmother in our house. And my father and grandfather were outside trying to fight the
Oh,
fire when the front hit. So, very lucky, everyone survived. But the journey on from that was then they had lost all photographs, all things like that.
mm,
So, when I started to hit those early primary school ages, and you're doing the projects
yeah,
about your family tree and your
yeah.
history and show us this, and I'd start to realize, oh, I couldn't find that imagery
Oh, wow.
um, on my father's side of the family, or there might have been a handful of photos that other family
Mm,
members might have forwarded on, and they were
mm,
like a gold mine. Like they'd suddenly find it, and then maybe 2 years later, something else would emerge from somebody else, and be like, "Oh, I found a photo of your dad on
wow.
his horse," and you'd be
Wow.
like, I've always created. So you started to create the imagery of your
Yeah,
family history in your head because you didn't have those photos.
yeah.
And then when you see one, all of a sudden it felt so real. Um,
Wow.
so I started, I guess it really imprinted something on me about valuing a
Mm,
photograph and the talking points it would create, because then that's the memory. They'd find a photo and we'd be sitting there on the couch, and then the stories would roll on. and
wow.
and I think it gave them more positive ways to talk about things, whereas there was a lot of and unsaid trauma from all of it. So it was
Wow.
positive ways to be able to talk about the old house and the way they used to live.
Wow.
Um,
So
yeah,
you don't tell people about that story. Like that's something that a lot of us wouldn't
yeah.
know about you. Do you?
No, probably not much. And I think because it kind of started to feel quite normal, I guess, where I grew up in that community, like trees were just black. Like
Mm,
our photos, when I look back on me as a kid, we're playing out where, dad's trying to establish a garden. He was a landscaper, but then there's still just, blackened trees everywhere. And we're
mm,
out and it was our playground. So to me, that's all I knew. It was
wow.
something very familiar and still is when I drive through places and there's sort of some mark of
Mm,
a fire being. To me, that's quite normal, as all the rebirth and the regeneration.
mm,
Um, and I guess, and I probably was also sensitive too of that it is something traumatic for more my parents and my
mm,
grandparents and maybe other people, that it's um, they're very horrendous experiences for people to go through,
mm.
and we've had significant
Yeah.
events since.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow. That little story has prompted so many questions in my head. It's firstly, and this is insignificant, but not really. And then I want to dig deeper. But when you were talking about all the little fresh growth and all that kind of stuff, and the nature, and you said before, I'm an introvert. Give me nature, that kind of stuff.
mm,
Do you reckon? Um, Very random question.
yeah, go
You
for
know
it.
when it's black and all those little tiny little growths come back and
Yeah,
they've got this it there's something magical. It's like,
yeah,
wow, like such resilient growth and such new growth and new birth and new hope
yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. Did As a kid, were you intrigued by that? Did you watch that and potentially did that inspire you to capture it or
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
think absolutely. Like I know as soon as I had devices, I was
Yeah,
capturing things. Um,
yeah,
and I'll still pause and take photos when I see that little sort of regrowth. I think
yeah.
it's hugely symbolic, and um, there's great strength in it that we can all
Mm.
find, whatever we're going through. Those hidden layers, there's often something ready to emerge. It just needs those right conditions again.
100%.
Yeah.
Ah,
And I love nature. Like my dad was a landscape gardener. My gran was an avid gardener. We'd spend a lot of time outside. We'd, or constantly be going down what we call the fire track,
mm,
which was where the firefighters lost their life. But that was we'd go down there, we'd walk, we'd ride our horses. And you're always observing the little things in nature, whether the ants were building their nests up because it was going to rain.
mm,
So I guess I learned a lot of observational skills
yeah.
probably, and I think that's greatly led into my photography, and sometimes being an introvert, I think those skills can be strengthened because you're an observer
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you sort of start to really acutely observe things. And then think that's helped me greatly in my photography.
And you are very keen. You notice things at events. You just notice two people talking. You notice someone excited. You're very, very good at that. Very good. By the way, I'm an introvert, and I know you might find that very hard to believe. I actually am a very
Yeah, no,
solid
I
introvert.
can understand that. I think a lot of us are. It's more that we've found our passion.
Yeah,
We've found something that allows us to be that extrovert or be that bigger energy in a room for
yeah.
people, because it drives us past any of the anxieties or the doubts
Yeah.
and things. So no, I can believe that. You live on a farm and you've got lots of animals. That says like total introvert to me.
And I don't go to parties and I don't go out. I
Yeah.
love it. So when you said before, when I got my first device, so
Yeah.
you didn't get a camera, but what device are you talking? What did you eventually get that you went, oh my God, I've got this thing I can capture
Yeah.
moments.
Um, well, it probably was when I bought my first film camera in high
Yeah,
school. So it probably didn't really kick off until high school. I used to draw a lot instead. And I think
yeah.
that was my first way of recording and writing. But when I was 16, I saved up and bought my first film camera from the good old Trading Post. So there's an age mark for people.
Yeah.
Remember getting my mum to drive me there so I could pick it up, and so it's really started from there, from
Wow.
my art teacher, and we'd been starting to learn a bit of film photography, and then I went and bought my own camera, and it really just became my handbag. Um,
Yeah.
I still have it, but through those sort of teen years, it sort of helped me go off and be in my own little world at
Yeah.
times. And then with friends, it just came with me everywhere. Like them when we were like 18, 19, 20, just recorded those quite magical years where
Yeah.
life feels like it knows no bounds.
Did
Um,
you did you know then, like when you're 16, 17, 18, when you're carrying around this camera, snapping all the little party shots and what have
mm.
you, was there a deeper knowing that you were capturing memories, or were you just sort of just part of the gang, just snapping some shots?
Yeah, I think I knew it was valued,
Mm,
um, because I did. When I was maybe 19, I was working in a lab. I was working with another photographer, and it was all negatives and film still
yeah.
those days, and printing. So I'd always be giving my friends prints of the photos we might have taken that week, and they'd love it. Or then my photo albums are just full of gaps. Because if I'd have people over a party, everyone would be flicking through the albums and like, oh, I love this one of me. And I'm like, take it, take it. So now when I open up my photo albums, I'm like, oh, all the best moments are out of my albums now. um, so I know people loved it. I don't think I ever saw what I did as anything greatly significant, though.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Even though I wanted to be a photographer, um, I didn't actually go on and study it or anything, which is often something some people don't know.
Mm,
I went and did other qualifications, and my photography was sort of always just something kind of on the side or
mm.
got sort of shoved away because it had always sort of been a very strong message. There's no career in the arts.
Yeah, well,
Um,
that's what they tell you anyway.
yes, yeah,
That's
here I
that's
am.
Yeah, that's a story that we're fed. Go get a real job, and
Hmm.
yeah, which is a load of bullshit. Anyone listening, if you're an artist, bullshit. You can make it work. You've sometimes you got to sell your soul a little just to get it started, but you can absolutely make it work. Before I get on to asking you about when it be switch from a hobby to a
Yeah.
job, because I want to know that, or a career. Where I want to ask about the bushfires, because you said, and I know, and it's actually, it's made me fall off my perch a couple of times. The bushfires, I can't handle it, and
Mm.
for me, it's the animal loss. It's oh fuck, it just I'm
Mm.
tearing up now just
I
thinking
know,
about
no,
it. It just
it's
it's
absolutely heartbreaking the amount
oh
of absolute devastation,
yeah,
um, and losses of connections people
yeah,
could feel. Even the changing look of the landscape.
mm,
All of a sudden, you turn a corner, and what used to look a certain way looks entirely different. So
there's a
what
lot
used
of
to be familiar is no longer familiar. What used to be comforting is no longer comforting. So
mm,
it's like it can be a whole resetting kind of self.
Mm. And
Mm,
it's devastating. And I think that there's a couple of places in the world, and it's, us in Victoria and California, like we experience them often. Do like
yeah.
we're sort of become, no, not comfortable with it, but become expectant of it, I guess. Do you, and since, because where I was getting to, we've had a couple of big ones and several smaller ones.
Mm.
Are you drawn to photographing them? Like, are you drawn to traveling to those areas to photograph anything?
It's an interesting one. I think in terms of the action, there's part of me that does sort of want to be there and document. I've never actually done it. You need
Mm.
to go through some very specific training and get accreditation.
Oh,
But I'm also really conscious of, and this is, we'll jump into this, I'm sure, at some point because of all my social work time, the trauma that can be created by constantly sharing that and going in and trying to, you know,
yeah, yeah.
record and document this. There's a lot of ethics involved in my mind about how you do that, and then
Yeah.
how those things are shared.
Mm.
Um, and I think my first instinctual human response is just to help people rather than pick up my camera and
Yeah.
capture it. So as
Yeah.
much as I think I'd love to be an amazing photojournalist in
Mm.
intense situations, I still don't know what I'd quite do first.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think even when I've wanted to, the opportunity hasn't been there. I've been, busy, caught up with my own kids. But um, that said, sort of with the when we had all the bushfires down across Gippsland, instead I went down and volunteered just in
Yeah.
Bairnsdale at the relief centre. So
Yeah.
that probably is the answer there. I didn't take my camera. I wanted
Yeah.
to sort of document it, but then once I was there, I was like, no, I can be of more value to the people here just as me as a person, and
Mm.
listening to them and helping them navigate a very strenuous system of getting support.
Wow. Just on that, that's interesting because you went up to volunteer, and I've talked about this before on the podcast and in other times.
Mm.
I applied for, because the animals, I said, was my biggest thing, and
Mm.
I can't stand the human loss either, and I can't stand the property loss, but the animals are just, I
Yeah.
just feel like, fuck, they're just so defenseless. And I applied for an animal rescue, on, I don't know, it's Kangaroo Island or somewhere, to go and
Mm.
rescue the koalas and that. And they didn't accept me. And I was so that needing to help. Do you know
Yeah.
that just, what can I do? What can I
Yeah.
do? The relief centers we tried to donate, they were full. It was kind of like, well, I just need the help in some way. And there
Yeah.
was blockages everywhere. And when this animal, because I've always rescued animals like that. That's
Yeah.
just my thing. And then when this animal organization said, just didn't even get back to me. Actually, it
Yeah.
was this amazing sense of rejection, but also uselessness.
Mm.
And I really started to doubt myself. Like, what's my point
Mm.
of being here? And not in a depressive, suicidal way, not that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But what role do I actually play if I'm no good to anybody?
Yeah.
Like, and it
No,
was
I
really
absolutely
sad.
hear that. And I think, there's a lot of people out there who have huge urges to give and help,
Mm,
and are full of empathy and action, and
yeah.
are quite happy to be there face to face
Mm,
with it. Um, but then there's positives and negatives in how many systems we've put in place to
yeah.
manage these things. And I
Yeah.
understand and have respect that we need these
Yeah.
things in crisis situations, but sometimes there's a little bit too much red tape. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and people are stopped who probably even who have the skills and can just jump in
Yeah.
because you're not official enough. So like I wasn't when I went down and helped. um, I rocked up with a piece of sticky tape on my shirt with my name. I think I drew a star or a smiley face or something and just wrote social worker in brackets. Uh, because probably similar to your story, was feeling very helpless, frustrated. I somehow got connected to a bit of an online group, which was started by a local GP or psychologist down that way. Again, people feeling very frustrated, knowing that
Mm,
a lot of people were in that very immediate place of trauma, and how could we help them?
mm,
So some of this, there was kind of decided, well, let's just rock up,
yeah.
which
I
is
should
what
have
I
done
did.
that.
And
I should
basically
have
just
done that.
walked in there and I was just like, what do you need help with? And there were some people there doing some great job. There were some people there probably feeling very out of their depth with how to manage things, because there's a lot of high emotion. So I just kind of walked in and started doing my thing.
Oh, well, I should have put on my Blinky Bill badge with animal rescuer on a bit of sticky tape.
I don't know. So yeah, I
Wow.
mean, I'm sure I don't think I did any harm. And the beautiful thing about that day, I can still remember, is there was a woman there who was an evacuee herself and had come down, and we sort of
Wow.
developed this connection and friendship over that day, and she was unreal. She was someone who had lived a hard life, but so she knew what people needed. And she
Yeah.
sort of just cut through the bullshit, cut through
Yeah.
the, no, we're helping you, but this is the way we're going to do it. And she was like, no, this is what people need. And we created this sort of own little supermarket setup of whatever we could find, and people come and get what they actually needed, not just here's your package of
Wow.
certain things. People
Wow.
were lined up in like multiple lines, had to do this one and then go back to this one. And some of them would have a kid, but then the kids services were downstairs. And I'm like, well, the parent's not going to leave their child when they're feeling traumatic,
No.
even if it's, with a service,
Yep.
when it's nowhere near them and they can't even visually feel close to them.
No.
So I was sort of then navigating, looking after kids in between or making connections with parents. I'm like, here, come here, skip, go to this line now. And I guess just being an
Wow.
advocate and saying,
Yeah.
no, this person's already been here an hour. We need to not let them line up again.
Wow.
It was just little things.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. There has to be systems in place. Like, I'm not an anarchist. We have to have systems in place, or we will have God knows what chaos. But I agree with you. I really don't. I think it's the red tape and the black and white. Like, if we do this,
Yep.
tick the box, tick the box, tick the box, and there's a lot of human emotions that are left on the table. That we're just not dealing with. I love that. Before I still want to ask you, when you switched over to profession, but you're talking about social work. When you stuck that sticky tape on your shirt, did you have? Are you a social worker?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so that's actually probably my largest qualification. I did music business management, but then I actually went and did my Bachelor of Social Work, and entered that as a mature age student, and worked in that field for probably nearly 7 years, I think, before I stopped after my
Wow.
second child. So yes, actually qualified.
Yeah.
At that time when I stuck my sticker on, I hadn't been, I think, working in that field for maybe 3 years. So I felt
That's
a
not
little
much.
bit impostorish, but at the same time I was like, fuck it.
No, that's not much. 2 to 3 years. No, not
They
much
can soon kick
changes.
me out if they think I'm shit.
Yeah. Oh shit. Oh, so you actually were. That's amazing.
Yeah.
When you also, I know there's something about you, and I don't know the exact story. Something about helping refugees when you were something to do with social work and refugees. What tell
Yeah,
us about
yeah.
that?
I guess that was probably the main field I worked in. So when I was in uni, I did a placement and then continued volunteering at an organisation in Springvale called Springvale Community Aid and Advice Bureau,
Yeah.
and it was a really amazing grassroots organisation. We were open sort of every morning for emergency relief for all members of the community. But we had a lot of various programs too, and a lot of that was around settlement and helping newly arrived families because of the area that we were in. A huge area there of refugees coming, and at that time, and then I went on. They gave me a position there, so that was my first role as a social worker, managing like the drop in, and it was when a lot of the South Sudanese were first arriving. So we were kind of really on the forefront of setting up programs and community leadership dialogues, just trying to understand the culture a bit better. How can we create services that better support them? Which was, absolutely fascinating to be a part of and challenging, and gave me huge personal growth as well. And that sort of then led me on to probably, some, beautiful friendships with people from that community, which I still sort of keep going today, and have found ways to support their organisations that they've then established.
Well, which you do, and I know you do that. You 5% or something, you're 10% or something. You give a percentage from your, is it your wedding photography that you give?
Yeah, from the wedding, and now it just sort of continues as a just a
Yeah.
part, because then I stopped doing weddings and I was like, okay, well, we'll just keep
Oh, so yeah,
doing
and,
this.
to these to what is it called?
Yeah, two peace palettes. So the organization sort of disbanded a little bit about a year ago, but David, who was the founder of that, David Newell Vincent, is still doing work. So he comes back and forth between South Sudan and Australia. He's the most incredible peace building person I know. If you
Wow.
ever a book recommendation, oh my gosh, now I'm going to go blank on what it's called. It'll come to me. I think it's The Boy Who Wouldn't Die.
Wow.
Incredible. So he was like, what was, when war arrived on his doorstep, fled, and, then became alone by himself and became part of the Lost Boys of South Sudan.
Yeah.
So who were fleeing, and
Yeah.
pulled in to become a child soldier. Just one story
Wow.
after another
Oh
of
my
what he's had
God.
to survive, and then living in refugee camps before they were given a humanitarian visa to come here. And
Wow.
despite all of this, I met him when I was working in the youth part of our services. Immediately, I was like, what an incredible young person and leader.
Mm.
He, despite his own trauma and being around still a lot of anger and that within his community, he was amazing at sort of listening and understanding everyone and just wanting to bring together all the different tribes and get rid of this conflict, understand it, and then create more peace. And very inclusive of women as well. So
Wow.
yeah, he was amazing. So yes, I've always, once he sort of went on then to establish his own organization, and that was then about helping children back in his home village who were orphaned, homeless. So over the years, we managed to build a place for them all to live. We got in, bedding, organized schooling, and then sports. So one of the big highlights was this Sports for Peace program, where it was like a basketball tournament, and everyone traveled in from the various communities and played basketball. But then around that were the peace talks.
Yeah.
And he'd have everyone sitting there and discussing the laws and how we were going to better things. And yeah.
Oh, good on you. I'm good on him. Like, that's amazing.
Oh, he's amazing. He's absolutely incredible. So I feel he's one of those people that I feel my work was very lucky to help me cross paths with, and then continue that connection.
But it makes me wonder, like, no, what way? One, your humility is amazing because no one would know you even do that. But you just don't do it. You just don't say anything. You just get on and do it quietly. And I absolutely love that about you. But two, it drives me insane that we have so much conflict. That so many. We're all human. We all bleed. We all feel. We all love. We all want peace. And we're murdering each other. And I don't understand why we can't have a peaceful world. I absolutely can't understand it.
It's something that breaks my heart. It really does. And just the level of hatred towards what's different is something that I struggle with.
Yeah.
Because I guess a huge value for me is trying to encourage people to value what's different to you. Be curious about what's different to you. Don't have your, what I call like your starting point, hatred and dismissiveness. And, because when we start from there, everyone automatically goes down this very negative tangent. Oh, I can't trust this person. Oh, they do this. And then all those assumptions are just continually fed on, often by our leaders and, media who perpetrate, these distorted ideas. So I'm just like, no, we need to just take that moment to try to understand a little bit more.
Well, every decision we make it starts with fear or love, like every single decision. And it's like, when it's hatred, it comes from fear. When it's acceptance, it comes from love. And I just don't, love is so much easier. Like it's so much easier. But anyway. Now, all right. No, one other question. You keep surprising me with things. The music management. What were you doing in that?
Well, that was my massive love. Like in high school, music's always been huge in my life. Like, my
Yeah.
dad had a jukebox, so I would always be listening to music and had a record player in my bedroom.
Yeah.
So when I first started photography too, that's what I was capturing was bands.
Yeah.
I'd sneak my camera into gigs and photograph the bands, um, often down the top under the shirt. So I was sort of leaning towards that as a career, and it was kind of kick-started. Here's a funny little story. My best friend at the time, we were 16, and Radiohead announced that they were going to tour to Australia.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh my gosh, we want to meet them. and she had the very bold idea. She was bolder than I, of trying to get an interview. And
Wow.
and me thinking, no, we can't ask that. We're just some teenagers in a regional high school. So we wrote a letter, well, a fax, to EMI, their record label in Australia at the time, saying we ran a magazine on British music, promoting British bands in Australia. Could we please have an interview? Lo and behold, we got a response. Yes, you can have an interview with Phil Selway, the drummer. So then we were like, holy crap, this is crazy.
Wow.
We better start making this actual magazine now. So that was then where the real drive to, maybe I could actually do something in this industry happened, because we did. We had the interview with Phil Selway, which was incredible. Love this guy and absolutely adore that band. So that was hugely surreal. And then from that, we sort of just continued on, because then we needed to fill more articles for this magazine. So we started contacting other bands or record labels in the UK, trying to organize interviews. So this was me after high school, in the time difference, which you'd understand with everything you do, sitting, up there at like 1 a.m. or something. And the technology wasn't great those days. So it was still via phone, and I'd have my little microphone like sucked onto the phone and tape these with cassette recordings of interviews with bands.
Yeah.
And then I'd go off to school the next day. And then we sort of started to get in, emerging artists and get their records and give them to DJs in Melbourne, get them played on Rage.
Wow.
So they'd first, rather than their record labels, it was us getting bands sometimes their first actual play on the airwaves and on Rage. And then they get played in the clubs. So the clubs would start to pick them up and people would start to buy them. We're doing this all when we're underage. So, so then that put me on to doing, music business management.
Wow.
Yeah. But during the process of that, then sort of stepped away from it a little bit. I think I got a little bit off put by, I came at it with these rosy-eyed glasses, like, yes, you just get to promote everything you believe in and the music you love and people you think that deserves it. And then, the more I did it, the more I sort of saw, actually, no, a lot of incredible artists don't get the chance because they don't fit the mold, and others get pushed. And I started to feel like, because I'm very, I guess, true to myself or authentic. I was like, I can't lie or push something I think shit or push something I think is an asshole or I know is an asshole.
Yeah.
And so I started to step away from it. And that's when I sort of stepped a little bit back into the photography again. So,
well, you can now. It's changed a lot now that unknown artists can, have got just as good, almost as good a platform. But back then, I know there was 10 key bands and that was all there was. And, it didn't matter.
There wasn't independent labels, and that's what I think is incredible to see over the last kind of 10 years, more artists going, well, I'm going to create my own label and release my own music and manage my own career. And I think that's amazing. It's a lot of work. Like, I just think, to do that as a creative, but then still manage all the business side, like it's difficult, but I love seeing artists do that.
Well, you say that, but you and I both do the same. We both have our craft, and we both wear all the office hats at the same time. So
I know.
I did a music management business course, whatever, music, whatever, back years and years ago. And I remember sitting there and they said, it's going to come. Do you remember JB Hi-Fi? It's still there, but
Yes.
they said what's going to happen is there's going to be these little booths that are set up in each JB, and instead of buying the whole album, you'll be able to get on this computer and just pick certain songs, and it will burn those songs onto a CD. So you can have a CD that is just you make yourself. And I was like, wow, no way. How will that ever happen? And I distinctly remember thinking, my God, wow.
Yeah.
And now look at it.
I know. It's crazy how much it's transformed. Like there's so many of us, I think, that have just got like cupboards full of CDs and things.
Yep,
And
me.
now most people are just listening to music for free.
Yeah, well, I cannot throw out all my LPs, my records. They're all in the shed. No,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I've got a stack of them, and every time I pack up my CDs and say to Nikki, I might get rid of them, they end up back in the cupboard, and I just can't get rid of them.
No, well, I'm the same. The funny thing now is it's gone full circle. We'll have a laugh at this, and I'm sure my daughter won't mind me sharing. Like she has some of my CDs now up in her room for the artwork. She's like, oh, this is so cool, Mum. So she's got like one of my Hendrix things and Jeff Buckley. And she's like, this is so 90s. And I'm like, yeah, it is. She's like, of course, the 20 years later, 90s are really in right now. So,
I've got 60s and 70s.
Yeah, mine goes way back because I've got, a lot of vinyl. Like I still have a record player at home that we have on. So, yeah.
I've got to get one. I don't have one, but Hannah got one, and and I kept looking at it going, oh, I've got all these Kiss records in the shed, and Boz Scaggs, and Huey Lewis and the News, and all the old ones that I used to just, same as you, have a record player in the bedroom and just stay in there for hours. You know? And now we tell our kids off, get out of that bloody bedroom.
I think the beauty of records and what I love about it is that it's shared. You put that record on, you're not skipping through, you're not curating, you are listening to it as the artist intended. So you're going from start to finish, and it makes you more mindful. You have to be more present and really absorb the music, and it's shared. The sound is floating out through the house. You're not sitting there, like I don't sit down and put the record on and put the headphones on. My neighbors can probably hear it at times. So I feel like when I put a record on, it's much more communal way of enjoying music.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that. And it's too bloody hard to lift that needle and try and, my eyesight's gone. There's no way I'd be able to find that bloody groove.
It's so hard to find. I just want to hear that track again. You're like, oh, damn it.
Yeah. I absolutely love it. And what I love when you said about contacting Radiohead, I remember Sherbet came to the exhibition hall in Warragul.
Yeah.
And I did the same. It wasn't quite the same as Radiohead, but I went and had fish and chips, or just chips maybe back then. We're a bit broke, us kids. And I went to the Sherbet concert and I walked around the side where they were doing a sound check, and I had my fish and had my chips. And you make a hole in the top of the bag, and Sherbet came out, and Alan Sandoz, like the drummer, same drummer. He says, "Oh, where'd you get the chips?" And I told him, and he said, "Oh, can I have one?" So him and I were sharing fish and sharing chips out of my bag, and it was just bloody fantastic. And another day, Susie Quattro came to the Astrodome in Traralgon, and so I wanted to meet her. And so I said to one of the roadies, "Oh, how can I meet her?" And he said, "Well, I can't tell you that, and I can't tell you that she's staying at the Regency in Melbourne, and I can't tell you that her tour manager is so and so." I thought, oh, you ripper. So I went and rang up the hotel, asked to speak to the tour manager. This is in the days you could just do that. They'd put you through the bloody room. And he said, if you come at whatever time it was, 10 o'clock, because she's going to a sound check at 11, come at 10 in the foyer and you can meet her. So I've grabbed my sister's camera, and dickhead me. You'll understand this. Dickhead. No, first I'll tell you this. So I spent an hour with her. She just had a brand new baby. We were taking photos. She's saying, "Here, you hold the baby. I'll, let me, let me take your photo with her." It was just wonderful. And then she said, "What are you doing now?" And I said, "Nothing." "Oh, come to sound check with us." It was just sensational, right?
Amazing.
And Susie Quattro, she's my, oh my God. So I just had this best day, but I've grabbed my sister's camera, and on the way there, like dickhead me, you'll know this is a dickhead thing. It's a film camera. I've put it up my jumper, opened up the back, ran my finger on the film just to make sure there was film in it, because some of those old cameras
Yeah.
you couldn't tell
They
if there
didn't
was
wind on
bloody.
properly. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm like, and yes, there's film on it, so good. And so I'm taking all these photos and everything else, and I give it back to my sister. I said, "Oh, there's some photos on there that are mine when you get them back." And then when she got them back, she said, "What the hell did you do to that camera?" And I said, "Nothing. Why?" And she said, "All the photos are green. You can't see anything. It's because I
Oh,
opened up the back and let the bloody light in." And I was like, "Oh, no." They would have been the best
oh,
photos in the world.
but I bet you can, if you think hard enough, still remember almost what those photos were when you took them.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can. Yeah.
And I think because
Yeah.
I've got horror stories about losing whole rolls of film. It
Oh,
happens. There's things that can go wrong, but it's like you pause longer when you take it. So even
yeah.
if I've lost rolls, I can still sort of remember some of those shots that would have been.
I know. Would have
Oh,
been
but yeah, you
evidence that
cry.
you actually did it.
Yeah,
Some people have said,
cry worthy.
you have not met Susie Quattro. And when I was younger, I used to try and argue. I have. The
Yeah,
film just didn't work. But now I think, I don't give a fuck whether you believe me or
yeah,
not.
yep.
I
I know it.
know.
I had that day. That's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, I know
yeah.
that day. So when did you go to, like out of social work, out of bands, all that, and just go, you know what? I'm actually going to try and have this as my full-time job. Like, what was
Yeah.
that switch that made you, because we talked before, artists don't make money, get a real job, all
Yep.
that bullshit. What was it that made you go, I think I can?
Yeah, yeah, good question. Um, because it was always sort of there and I was doing little bits and pieces,
Mm,
but I think it was more the I think I can was more of a I think I have to.
mm,
Um, so my situation at the time was that I'd left my social work job, which was really, really hard to
mm,
stop. But after I'd had my son, I just couldn't do the hours that I needed
mm,
to. They were pretty intense roles at that time at an amazing organization, Foundation House, who just do torture and trauma work
oh, God.
with survivors.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, they're amazing. But I was like, I can't be present enough. This requires more hours than I can give. And I thought, nope.
Yep.
So I left that during the time, that same sort of time. My marriage was going through a lot of difficulty. And then that did culminate in me making the decision to leave.
Mm,
So I suddenly found myself in a situation where I was finding somewhere to live, trying to navigate,
mm,
an incredibly difficult time. And also, then what the hell am I going to do? Because I don't have a
mm,
job
mm.
or any income.
Wow.
So I was sort of all of a sudden in this situation where I was ringing up organizations in tears that I used to be the person sitting helping people do that too.
Yeah.
So it was really hard to sort of
Mm,
go, hang on, I'm in this place now. Um, but then that really did push me to go, okay, well, you need to maybe look at doing something with this photography. That's going to be your
mm,
way out. And sort of right at the cusp when that had happened, I had actually booked a wedding. So friends had sort of been, no, come on, we really want you to do this. So I was like, okay. And then that ended up actually sort of being the day after everything had fallen apart the night before. And
oh,
then I had
wow.
to get up that next day
Oh,
knowing my marriage had ended and I was going off to photograph a wedding.
wow.
Very tough day. I was very lucky that there was beautiful people there and got me through that day. They knew what had gone on. So, but then I continued with it. So I just went online, made my ABN. I was like, all right, you're doing this.
Did,
Um,
did you have trouble? Like, because you're an introvert, because it's always been, you've got the narrative, this is just a hobby, you can't make money out of this, blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
There's so much to push through. How did you find I'll say the guts, but that's not really the word, the courage, to find that
yeah,
inner strength to
yeah,
ask for work, like, or to
yeah,
put yourself out there, because whenever an artist puts themselves out there, it's kind of like they're putting their heart and soul on the table
yeah.
to be stabbed, because that's how it feels. Do you know?
Oh, absolutely. So I think I was driven almost by necessity. I was like, you have to do this. You need to get some sort of life back on track for my kids. I was like, I've got to
Mm,
figure something out. So I was like, okay, you don't have the luxury of leaning into your nerves. You
mm,
just have to be courageous. And I still have this beautiful little card, like, just like little cards you get with flowers that one of my friends, my best friend, had written to me when she gave me some flowers at the time. And she was just like Braveheart.
Wow.
And so she's always been that great encourager of, you're so brave and you're so courageous. Just keep being brave with your heart. And I still have that on my shelf. And I think of that all the time when I need it. Is just that I'm not necessarily a confident person at all, but I'm courageous. And I know I can be bloody courageous. And that sort of has always fooled me, just going, just make that one call. Just make that call, just to make that next action, just keep taking one step at a time forward to doing it. And the biggest thing that helped me then was I got in touch with the Gazette newspaper, and just kind of rang up and saying, have you got any jobs for a photographer? Knowing I wasn't professional, I didn't have qualifications. I was like, who am I even asking this? And then it was, Carolyn, the editor at the time, was like, yep, come on in, let's have a chat. And I remember how stressed I was trying to create this portfolio of like, I've never done this. What do I do? And sort of came in really nervous and super like professional to her office and sat down and had a chat and showed her photos. And we laugh about it now because then we became great friends. And yet she gave me the job.
Wow.
And then that kickstarted me working as one of the staff photographers for the newspaper. And then alongside that started to build up my own bookings as well. And over the years, it shifted sort of less time for the newspaper, more time for my own bookings until I took that on full time.
Wow. You are brave. Like you are, that's
Thank
something you have. I don't know if you can see it, but we can never see what other people see. And it's like, it's just
it's true.
impossible. But you have got this amazing inner strength that is, you're very, this is not even the right word. It's not a good enough word for you, but you've got this very solid warrior presence that sits within you. Does that make sense? You have. It's
And
really
I think
lovely.
you can have that while still feeling not weak, but still feeling doubt.
Vulnerable.
I'll always still feel vulnerable. But I think, and I don't think it ever comes from one particular place, but I know I do have a strength in me that I can kind of pick myself back up relatively quickly from things, or just not even fully picked up, but just continue on. There's not too much pause between things happening and going, okay, you just got to keep going. You just got to keep going. But that's things from family history. I don't know, combinations of people I've met, but, definitely the influence of working with the refugee community, because I guess a lot of time they'll be like, well, far out, come on. They've been able to persevere through this. Come on, you can still keep looking for the good things, look for the next moment.
Yeah. It's a real resilience. I talk about resilience a lot, and I don't like that word as in, oh, come on, toughen up, get back up, but I love resilience with the thought of there's an underlying foundation of optimism or hope.
Absolutely.
Hope for the everything to be okay.
I think that's absolutely it. Like I am an optimist, and I do like to sort of still believe there's a better moment coming, or there's, this might be really shit right now, but you keep going. There's got to be something that's about to bring you joy next. Like we all need the shadows and the light. I believe there's a lot of gray in life. It's not black and white. So I'm like, you never know when that next little beautiful moment's around the corner.
Do you know what? I agree. I 100% agree with that. And I would call myself an optimist as well, and yet I'm still a realist. I still know the fucking hell things are shit. And you kind of go, oh fucking hell. But I've come to say a lot. This too will pass. And what have you. But and I never get depressed or like mental health issues or anything. I never feel like giving up, that sort of stuff. But I swear to God, it's because I've got that underlying optimism. And I always believe there's something else coming, and even if there's not, I never feel let down by it, because it's not about the next big thing like winning TATS Lotto. It's tomorrow there will be a moment of joy. Do you,
Yes, yeah,
and
yeah,
it's a small moment. It's free. It doesn't have to be,
yeah,
shit. Oh my God, look at that. Look at that lemon tree. It's got bloody 60 new lemons on it.
yeah.
That it's that kind of joy.
Absolutely. And I think I'm very much the same. And I think I try to practice a lot of gratefulness simply for just being here,
Yeah. Yeah.
knowing that not everyone even gets that privilege to age in life.
Yeah.
And that probably comes from, hearing a lot of traumas and what a lot of other people go through in life. And I just think, far out, I'm lucky to be here. Yes,
Yeah.
I've had my own struggles and will continue to have some. But it's like, what, in the end, I can still pause and take in a beautiful moment. I can still call on people if I really want to connect
100%.
with them.
Yeah.
So, focus on that as much as you can.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And like, I don't want to beautify it. Like, there's days I'll lose my shit and I'm in tears and I'm just like, oh my God, this is so hard. Like, just give me a break. Like, is it,
Yeah.
So yes, I'm like, you're a realist too, but I like to just go, okay, there's still so much
Yeah.
I can be grateful for right now.
100%.
And it's those little moments of joy, is like lemons, yes, like even like last week, it's just conversations for
Yeah.
me and connections with people. Like this beautiful lady I went to meet with because she rang me up that she had a photo of her son who'd passed away that she was wanting to get a copy of. So I was like, went around, ended up meeting with her at her home, then was there for quite a while having a chat. And then, the more stories emerge about loss and
Yeah.
grief
Yeah.
and her own health struggles. And you're like, wow, this is intense what she's gone through.
Mm.
And like, okay, well, I can be here and actually just listen,
Just listen. Yeah. Yeah.
and I can help her with these things, learn
Mm.
about her and her amazing strengths in her 80s. And then I walked out of that day with this photo to do some work on, and I was like, how gorgeous was that? I
Yeah.
wouldn't have been expecting that moment last week,
Yeah.
but I got to have that human to human connection.
Yeah.
And I guess I
And it's
take a lot
special.
from that. Yeah.
Mm. That
Yeah.
that bit about aging too, I'm 61. I'm happy to tell people how old I am. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I love the fact that I'm bloody 61 and still got all the same
Yeah.
my 16-year-old energy in me. Well,
Yeah.
not this week, but you know what,
Yeah.
mostly. And I've often said, even when I hit 50, I was like, oh fuck 50. And I do worry about different things now that I'm older. There are
Yeah.
different concerns. But I just think shit, to live 50 years, you're freaking lucky to be here. Do you know, like
Yeah.
that? That's 50 years of near misses and 50 years of
Yeah.
illnesses and 50 years of God knows what. Like you
Yeah.
made it. So I just think
Mm.
every year you get as you age is a damn gift.
Yeah.
And celebrate the years. Don't hide them. Don't try and
Yeah.
pretend you're 30. Like
Yeah.
just it's just enjoy every bit. Oh, just one last question before we wrap up. You talk about your values have to be so deeply entrenched in your photography. What are your values? Like what
Oh,
is it? What is it that is it has to exist in your work?
yeah. I think I've always been very driven by making a difference,
Mm,
and feeling like there's some intention to what I'm doing.
yeah,
But there really has to be a valuing of difference, or a general respect for humankind.
yeah,
So and I put that out there with what I understand, who I support, various communities.
mm,
So if someone's against that, or is racist, is um, in any sort of way really against minorities in society, I'm like, I don't want to work with you.
good. Yeah,
Um, and I try to make that a point of education first, but I'll refer them on. So
yeah,
for me, I don't want to encourage that sort of hatred of what's different, like what I got back to. So for me,
mm,
it really is that respect for others,
mm,
but not just like a tokenistic respect for others, like understand it and mean it, and
mm,
just be kind and compassionate. Um, and the process of working with people is really important for me. I don't ever like to force people to do something they're not comfortable with.
mm,
Like I want someone when they're having their photo taken to feel like their time with me and the doing of that
yeah,
is just as enjoyable as the final outcome when they see the photo.
yeah,
So I think it's
yeah,
a really chance to make someone feel empowered and good
yeah,
about themselves.
yeah,
So I try to put a lot into that to make people
yeah,
go, okay, no, this is okay. I can feel a bit better about myself now. You've helped me see something in me that I haven't seen strong enough in
mm,
myself. So
mm. I love that.
yeah.
But you have got a knack of making people feel amazing. Like you've got this absolute, and I said it to you when we were getting our Girls with Hammers photos. Mind you, we need an update. We don't look like that anymore. When you were like, there's this air or sense of absolute zero judgment. You know, like that you are perfect just as you are. That's the
Yeah.
message you send as you're doing photos, and I think that is beautiful. Some people say, no, hold your face like this, do this, no, do that, you know, but
Yeah.
you don't. You just like just be you, just
Yeah.
and it's beautiful. No, I have one more question, so I have to ask, if you could take a photo of anyone in the world, who's it going to be?
Oh my gosh, that is so hard.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
And I mean, sit with them for an hour, you know, and really soak in their presence while
yeah.
taking photos.
The easy answer out is anyone, because I'm so intrigued by
Yeah,
anyone.
yeah,
And I think it can be just those random moments that you've crossed someone's path
yeah,
that you might get some incredible portraits, because the more you get to know them, or the more vulnerable they are with me, the more
yeah,
I can get out of it as a photographer with the photos I sort of take.
yeah,
But other people, like we're going back to Radiohead now. I'd
yeah,
love to take photos with Tom York.
yeah.
I find, him as a creative and as a person so intriguing and
Is he the singer?
intellectual
I
and
don't.
amazing. The singer,
Yeah,
Tom York. Yeah. And what he's sort of done with his own creativity is incredible, the way he constantly explores and transforms different things over the years. So, and
right.
he's got that little bit of darkness to him. I like a bit of moodiness and a bit of
Yeah.
darkness. So yeah, Tom York would be incredible.
So why don't? All right. Well, let's leave you with a challenge. Send him an email and say, "Hey,
I know,
I did
it
this."
is coming, and I stupid me didn't even get on and get tickets in time, so I've got to try and sort that out.
Oh, why don't you just send an email? Why don't you just say,
I
you
should
know,
do the thing again, right, and say, "Hey,
oh, yeah, no, just do it. Just say, I would love to, and here are some of my photos. I would love to
yeah,
capture. You. Oh, wait,
yeah,
why not? 20 seconds of courage can change a life, can't it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Lauren, I've absolutely loved this, and there are so many things I found out about you now that I didn't even know, and
yeah."
I thought I knew you well, and
There you go.
so I'm a bit embarrassed that I didn't know some of those
No,
things,
don't be embarrassed.
but you're an amazing human being, an absolute. Well, a good egg still doesn't sell you enough. You know, like you just got a heart of gold, and I absolutely
Thank
adore you,
you.
and you know that.
I
Yeah,
do know that you've been
just,
an amazing supporter of me and encourager. So yeah,
yeah, you just
value you greatly.
well, I value you greatly too. Lauren, where can people find you to follow,
Uh
get
Online. So my
your
website's just laurenmurphyphotography.com.au. Instagram's always better if you're looking for socials rather than Facebook. I'm admittedly a bit slack with my Facebook.
yeah,
And that's just again Lauren Murphy Photography.
yeah,
Yeah, never hesitate to reach out. Like I do mentorship with people at times from
yeah.
all areas, or to sit and have a cuppa and talk about my own journey to things, or always willing to share.
Yeah, you're a buddy. You're a ripper. Absolutely love you. Well, thank you very much. And
Thank
I'll put
you.
those in the
Been
show
fun.
notes. And this has been absolutely fantastic. So catch
Yeah,
up with you soon.
will do. Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you. See ya.
Bye.
Ta-da.